Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Review Team News reaction video ahead of tonight's Europa League clash between Rangers and Aris Limassol. The teams have just dropped. I'm delighted to say we're joined. Well, first of all, I'm in the Bills of Ibrox and in the press room. First time this season I've been in here. It looks absolutely fantastic. And I'm joined by Jonny McFarlane. How are we doing, Jonny?
You know what? I'm good, Derek, and I'm all the better for seeing you because it's been a while since I've even set eyes on you, never mind spoken to you. So it's great to see you. I see you've got a lovely new pair of glasses. You've gone full Deirdre Barlow this time, which is always nice to see. And on top of that, the level of professionalism of this man, he brings an actual mic to the press room. Normally you get Joshua sounding all tinny on his laptop, sounds like crap. Here's Derek bringing his actual mic. Derek, I salute you.
Yeah. Absolute professional, Jonny. And the specs. I'm not having this from Mark Heights. He says Deirdre specs, Derek. These are Giorgio Armani, no less. So no expense spared. But anyway,
are they Armani?
Armani. Let me just double check. Giorgio Armani specs. They cost an absolute bomb, I'll tell you that. But there you go. I can see much better, so that's the main thing. Let's talk Rangers because people aren't tuning in to talk about our spectacles, Jonny. Let's talk about the Rangers team that are going to line up tonight. Here it is in full. Rangers lining up with Butland in goal, a back four of Tavernier, Suter, Davis and Barisic, a midfield of Lundstrom and Cifuentes with Cantwell, Lammers and Sima supporting Danilo up top. On the bench for Rangers this evening, McCrory, Kieran Wright, Dessers, Lawrence, Matondo, Sterling, Roof, King, Devine, McCausland, and McKinnon. Of course, we knew that Connor Golson suspended for this one. Jonny, good to see John Suter back in the team. Any other surprises for you in that lineup?
Nah, I think that's pretty much what we would have expected. I'm still not completely convinced, I have to say, by Cifuentes as a holding midfielder. I've not seen a lot of positional discipline from him so far. I think he was brought in as a box-to-box. I don't know whether or not he'll be expected to sit in there and hold the line with Lundstrom and dictate play and watch out, crucially, I think, for these counter-attacks. Because the one thing about this Aris side is they are pretty good when it comes to transition and hitting you with pace on the break. So Rangers will have to be very careful on that front. We know they like to push their fullbacks forward, and that's going to leave space in the flanks. How Rangers deal with that, I think, will be crucial to how this game goes. Now, let's not beat around the bush, Derek. Rangers were awful over there in Cyprus. Absolutely awful. I can't remember a worse performance, really, off the top of my head. It was that bad. And Aris weren't good. But I think we've seen throughout the away games in this group so far, they've scored, and they've scored often away in Europe. So that's one that Rangers will have to be very, very wary of. There's clearly threat there. And this is a game that you say on paper should be a 3-0 or a 3-1, but it might be a little bit tighter than that. So I think having that fervent, raging in the right way Ibrox tonight, I think can make a big difference because Aris just won't be used to that. And as always, having that 12th man makes a real big difference in these European games.
Yeah, most definitely. Lots of comments coming in. Not many people not too enamoured with the Rangers lineup tonight. First of all, Craig Watson, we all like a bit of comedy on the show, but this is too far, Craig. He says the two Ronnies, myself and Jonny. Oh, and you don't get any comedy, unfortunately, though, Craig. That is the only thing. Maka says, evening, guys. The usual Cantwell Lammers conundrum. I've said in a number of times now, Jonny, I don't think Cantwell out on the right-hand side works. That being said, he scored in the previous European match whilst playing out there against Sparta Prague. For me, Sam Lammers, I remain to be convinced. I think he's had more than enough time to show what he's capable of. I'm just not having him, unfortunately. I don't think he's got it to succeed at Rangers. But Cantwell on the right, Jonny, are you a fan, or would you like to see him more centrally?
Nah, I think it's pretty obvious that the centre is where Cantwell plays best. I think Lammers, I can see it there, Derek. I can see he's got a touch, he's got movement, but he just never produces anything. When the crucial moment comes, and you think back to that Celtic game, he does brilliant to get around the keeper, and then he can't score. The cross comes in against Aberdeen. He's got himself free in the box. He's 6 yards out. He can't score. You know, he had that opportunity. If you go right back to Servette, Rangers 2-0 up. He's put through with the keeper. He's looking at the whites of his eyes. 3-0 before half-time. The game's over. No stress for the rest of the game. And he puts it wide. Sam Lammers, unfortunately, has shown in his time at Rangers so far, he's just not got that big game mentality. And no Rangers player can survive without that. I like him. I think he's a good player. I don't think he's the right fit for this club. And I know that's brutal. I know that's harsh. But I'm basing it on a fairly big sample size. And in the key moments, if you don't stand tall at Rangers, you will never survive. History shows us this over and over again. But listen, having said all that, I'm not a football manager. I don't have to deal with the fallout if Lammers isn't played, Derek. This is a £3.5 million signing. If Clement drops him like a stone, where are you come January when clubs maybe come knocking, looking for him if Rangers are looking to move him on? Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe Clement thinks he's something there. Maybe he sees these positive elements I've identified and thinks he deserved a chance. Personally, I'm with you, Derek. I move Cantwell into the centre. And if you have to have Lammers on the side, play him out wide. Play him on the right. Give Cantwell that freedom. These two are going to operate in the same spaces, though. And that's always going to be the problem. They're going to be on each other's toes.
It's an interesting one because this is the second manager now that's playing Cantwell out there. I think we're all screaming for him to play more centrally, but he must see something from Sam Lammers in training to continue with the status quo. So there you go. There's a few shouts as well, Jonny, for Ross McCausland, fresh from signing that new deal to get an opportunity. Damien with the point here. Cantwell should have been in the centre with McCausland on the right.
Look,
I think he'll feature at some
just
point.
One thing about it. I think it's one of those intellectual coaches things, right?
Yeah.
Where what's Rangers' biggest threat? Who is Rangers' biggest threat? James Tavernier, right? Without a doubt, just the numbers speak for themselves. Like people might say, nah, it's Danilo now and £6 million signing and that hopefully is the case for Rangers. But at the moment, over the last few years, there's no doubt it's James Tavernier. What does Cantwell do? He vacates that space and allows Tavernier to attack it. So perhaps the whole thing, this whole setup, the way it is designed is to free up that space, allow Tavernier to push into it, and sort of have almost like a 3-2-4-1, where you've got Seema on the left, Lammers behind Danilo, Cantwell behind Danilo, and Tavernier always bombing up down that side and kind of creating overload there. I think that's the plan. I'm still not convinced, even if that is the plan, that it works.
Interesting indeed. Let's get a few of the comments that have come in. Hugo Bear with the point that I would have started McCausland. He'll be buzzing. I'm sure he will feature at some point from the bench, buddy. But there's many people, including Chris. I think Joshua had him in his predicted lineups as well, starting the game. I think he's more naturally suited to out there on the right hand side. Scott's raises the point on Cantwell inside right. Tav gives width. So there you go. I imagine he will be cutting inside on that right hand side. There was a comment as well suggesting that the Rangers team lacks any real pace there. Jonny, is that a concern for you, looking at especially that forward line? That where is the pace going to come from? You mentioned Aris do have pacey forwards. I'm sure they'll be looking to hit on the counter this evening. However, looking at that Rangers team, is there enough pace in it for you?
Well, Seema's absolutely rapid. I mean,
yeah,
he's lightning quick, and then Matondo's on the bench, isn't he? So you've got serious options. I don't think Danilo's a slouch either. He's not super fast like Seema, but I think he's faster, for example, than Alfredo Morelos, who was there previously. So, look, Cantwell and Lammers, they're not runners, are they? They're ball players. But if you're looking for speed, then Seema brings that. Should there be more? Maybe. Listen, I think Matondo's going to be a big player under Clement.
Yeah.
You look at his time in Belgium, Derek. He was excellent in Belgium. People forget that because he had such a bad season for Rangers, obviously interrupted by injury last year. But he was electric in Belgium, playing as a second striker, also showing that he can play out wide. I think Clement will know exactly what he can give. The best game that Matondo had in the whole time he was in Belgium was against Philippe Clement's Bruges. It was a 2-0 win, and Matondo scored the second. So Clement knows all about him, and I thought there was a wee bit of a sparkle in his eyes when he was asked about Matondo and what he could give. I think he's going to be a big part of things going forward, and at the moment, I think what you're just seeing is him getting bedded back in softly, but it may be that pace will be ramped up with a sort of Sima Matondo wide axis in certain games going forward.
Yeah, interesting point on Matondo. Mark with the point here. McCausland, Rabi, cracking subs to bring on. Absolutely. I thought it was interesting as well, Clement saying that he played almost as a second striker in Belgium and more centrally. Perhaps we may see that going forward, but I thought he made a positive impact when he came on Sunday against Aberdeen. Should have had an assist to his name with that ball he laid on a plate for Sam Lammers deep in stoppage time, but the less said about that opportunity, the better. So there you go, folks. That is the team. Thanks for many of you for indicating the scoreline in the other game taking place this evening. That will finish before the Rangers match kicks off. Sparta Prague currently leading Real Betis by 1-0. So the group currently stands Betis on 9 points, Rangers in second on 7. Obviously a better head-to-head record than Sparta Prague, who go on 7 as well if they can hold on to that lead. It's 64 minutes played over there in the Czech Republic, and Aris on 3 points. So it's all there for Rangers tonight, Jonny. I fully expect them to go out and not blow away Aris. I think they'll make it stuffy for Rangers, but I can see perhaps a 2-0 victory tonight that shall guarantee them group knockout stage football in Europe after Christmas. Can you see anything other than a Rangers win this evening?
No, I really do think Rangers will win. I have a good feeling about it. They'll have to be careful, Derek. I think this team is one of those classic ones. If you beat them, everyone says, oh, well, they're there to be beaten. They're from Cyprus. They're Diddies anyway. If you draw or you lose, then you get absolutely filleted. So it's a situation you can't really win in when it's like that. But we know that Rangers are in a really, really strong position to qualify from this group. Aris are the weakest team in it. Despite what I've just said, I think Sparta are a pretty good side. Betis are certainly a very good side. So if you were going to pick one as a sort of win or die clash to go through to the next phase, not that this is that, but to give you the opportunity, then it would have to be tonight. And you've got to imagine Rangers, given their record in recent years, will really, really, really fancy their chances, Derek. Sorry, still got this goddamn awful cough. Absolutely doing my head in, pal.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, it's all there for Rangers. If that scoreline remains the same, it's an opportunity to go top of the group. And then as we head over to Seville, myself and Chris Jack, it'll be up to Betis to break down Rangers to finish in top spot. That might just suit Rangers over there. But there's a job to do this evening, of course. They need to go out there and make amends from that night to forget over there in Limassol a good few weeks ago. I'm sure they'll put Aris to the sword. Right, folks, that'll do us there. Huge thanks to Jonny and to everyone interacting with the show as ever. Myself and Chris Jack will be on at full time, I think it is. If I'm not, I think it's. Are you on, Jonny? I'm not entirely sure. I'm sure it's. But I'm on with somebody at full time.
I am going to be back on with you, pal. I'm going to be back on with you.
There, a double helping of myself and Jonny, folks.
Listen, Derek, see before you go.
Yes.
Just because everyone, I don't mean it. I know you probably want to get away and have a wee pie or whatever it is you enjoy pre-match. But I notice there's a lot of people asking about Tom Lawrence, and we've not kind of touched on that. I think that's
a good point. It's a good point. Yep.
That's kind of a pertinent one because, again, we've touched on Lammers being out of form and maybe not showing what he's capable of in the big moments. Tom Lawrence has looked really good since he's come back. He's clearly not fully fit. I suppose I'll put it to you. Do you think it's a case of you can't really rush him through 2 games in a short period of time? Or do you think it's because the manager has other ideas?
Clement said on record, doesn't he? He's a big fan of rotating the squad. I think we all know there's a tight fixture list. This is 11 games now up until the January winter break. I imagine it's just managing his load at this moment in time. He is coming back off a long-term injury. I think he will play a part. I'd imagine he'll start on Sunday against St Mirren. So I think that's all it is, Jonny. If he was out of the squad altogether, then obviously it's something to do with his fitness and that.
No, he's on the bench.
But he's on the bench. I'd imagine he might come on at some point this evening. But it's up to Sam Lammers. He's got the jersey tonight to go and show why Rangers paid a substantial amount of money to bring him into the club. He's not shown it yet. So, yeah, big night for him. But, yeah, I wouldn't read too much into it. Incidentally, I've been quite impressed with Tom Lawrence since he's come back. I thought he was good on Sunday against Aberdeen. Maybe up there as man of the match contender. Very unfortunate not to score when he had that shot that cannoned off the bar. But, yeah,
I'm not sure you're really the person to be talking about Tom Lawrence, because everyone knows 2 years ago, before he was signed, Derek went on record and said, we need to sign this guy, Tom Lawrence. I've seen him a few times when I've been covering Bolton in the English Championship. He is a top-class player. He will score goals and create goals for fun up here. And, of course, Derek's prediction was looking pretty damn good until that horrible, horrible injury. So you've got a bit of riding on this one, haven't you?
What's funny about it, I'm sure I covered the game. I can't remember if it was the same game. I'm sure Derby were playing Stoke, and Jack Butland might be in goal for Stoke, and Lawrence scored against him, and it was an absolute beauty. But every time I watched him play, he scored, and they weren't just tap-ins, they were screamers from about 20 yards. So he's not quite hit the heights, I think, for Rangers, but a large part of that is because he's not really been fit enough. So touch wood, he can steer clear of injury after being out for such a long period of time. He can really show what he's made of, because he is, I think he is top drawer, and Rangers are going to need him, Jonny, because the games are coming thick and fast, as the old saying goes. So St Mirren are flying high at this moment in time. That's not going to be no gimme on Sunday, but of course got to take care of matters tonight. And as we witnessed at Pittodrie on Sunday, teams are not going to lie over and let Rangers beat them. They're going to have to go out there, and they can't afford to have first halves like we witnessed up there at Aberdeen at the weekend. They need to go out there from the off, as I imagine they will do tonight. I think the fans will be turning up to Ibrox wanting to see a bit of a reaction. They want to see Rangers go at Aris, get the game put to bed early on, and I'm sure that's what we'll see tonight. Do you reckon?
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly hope so, Derek. I think there's plenty of reason to be optimistic. You know, this Aberdeen game, I think we've obviously covered it on here in depth, but there was disappointments in that game. There was things that you can pick apart, especially in context of the larger season. But I think these Rangers players can put it to bed completely tonight. Go out and win well, and I think the mood will be, you know, there's a blip in the road under Philippe Clement, and then on to St Mirren. And as you say, that is going to be a difficult game, Derek. Make no mistake. That's not been an easy place for Rangers to go. There's been a few really, really tight ones, a few squeaky bum moments, as Sir Alex would say. So that's another difficult one. But listen, that's down the line. It's one game at a time, to use the old cliche. And tonight is a really, really big one for the club. Listen, it's easy to forget, you know, the journey of the last 10 years that Rangers have been on, Derek. And, you know, I think back to the very early knockings of my career. One of my first games in journalism as a sports journalist was Rangers versus Progress. Remember the first game really, really well, covering it, and then obviously what happened in the second game. If you combine that to the previous years of lower division football, where there wasn't obviously European games, it's easy to forget how far Rangers have come in Europe, where it's thought of as a gimme that they'll sail through Europa League qualifiers. But that's been down to the good work that's been done, I think, in Europe by pretty much every manager that's been involved there, especially Giovanni van Bronckhorst, of course, with what he achieved. But Steven Gerrard also had a fantastic record, and hopefully Philippe Clement can take that forward, because there's no doubt this club, the dimension of this club, always needs to have solid European performances behind it. We get in the Champions League, it's completely different. Celtic are finding that out this year. Rangers found that out last year. Unfortunately, that's a Scottish football thing. That's an economic factor thing, and I don't think that's going to change with a new setup, which is designed to make clubs, I think, to make the rich clubs even richer and dish out meagre morsels for the rest. But in terms of the Europa League, I still think Rangers have got a chance of going on a right good run, Derek. And crikey, after Seville, let's hope we get something like that again, because that was just absolutely incredible. I mean, from a point of view of us here covering it, going to these games and the emotion and the adrenaline rush of that, I've never seen anything like that in my career. So, I mean, I would be desperate to go through that again. You were at all these games. You were away The only one you actually missed pretty much was the Leipzig home match because you had a stag do.
Yeah, no, I was at a wedding. I was in Ben Al Medina of all places, but a brilliant bar none. Many viewers will know all about that famous Rangers bar in Ben Al Medina. Was there, and it was a fantastic evening. But I would have given my right arm to be at Ibrox that night. It was superb. But I quite fancy a wee trip to Dublin next year, Jonny. I've got to say, if Rangers get there, I'm sure. We'll travel in our numbers. Don't rule it out just yet, folks. But I do fancy Rangers to get the job done tonight. Ian Thompson messages in. Johnny's in good voice today, getting all nostalgic on a Euro night. Good lad, absolutely. Roberto Ran gets in touch. He says, Rangers win 4-1. What do you think, guys? I would happily take that, Roberto. I think it's going to be probably about 2-0. I'm going to go for with my score prediction tonight. I think it might be a bit stuffy at times, but I fancy Rangers to be just too good for Aris, who incidentally, I'll bring you their team. Apologies, any Aris Limassol fans who are tuning in if I butcher any of these names. But Vanna Alves is a goalkeeper and he's a captain. Kaju, Musunda, Bengtson, Cochran, Yagu, Mambela, Struski, Soki, Jurosevic and Babika. So there you go. There is the Aris Limassol side that Rangers are taking on in just under 45 minutes time. Really much looking forward to this one. As it stands, Sparta still 1-0 up over Real Betis, 1-0 after 75 minutes. There was a comment came in incidentally saying, is that a good result for Rangers? Listen, they just need to win tonight. It doesn't matter what happens in the other game. They just need to win to book their place in the next round, because Rangers have that better head-to-head over Sparta. So it's all there for them this evening, and I imagine they will go out there and do the business. Right, Jonny, will we wrap up there and we'll speak at full time?
Well, indeed, but I just want to ask you one question, because one of the highlights of going to Ibrox, and it's a minor highlight, there's no doubt about that, but it's still a highlight nonetheless, is the journalist's pre-match meal. Derek, what's on offer? Because I'm obviously missing out because I'm choked up, and I decided sitting out in the cold was not going to be for me tonight. What have you been scoffing?
They've upped their game here at
Ibrox.
Yeah, they've certainly upped their game. I was treated to a lovely helping of Chinese chicken with rice. It was a lovely little chicken and a sauce with seasonal vegetables and rice. It was superb stuff. It was devoured in no time. So yeah, hats off to the catering staff here. We're getting a pie at half-time as well, which was a nice little surprise. So hopefully I'm down here sharpish.
Sandwiches are good at half-time too.
Interesting. So I look. Yeah. Absolutely. But folks, enough of our culinary delights here at Ibrox. We will have all the reaction at full time, as we touched on. Myself and Jonny will be on pretty much immediately on the full time whistle to give our reaction to the game. We'll have the press conference to bring you as well over on YouTube, as well as the interviews from the mixed zone. Joshua is heading down there for us, or Chris is. It's a full team effort. We've got a full squad covering Rangers this evening, which is absolutely fantastic stuff. Right, we're off and we'll speak to you a little later on. Enjoy the game, folks, and bye for now.